Many years ago, a friend turned around and asked me, "Have you tried watching One Piece yet?" I said, "What, is that the show with over 500, 700 episodes at a time?" And they said yes. I said no, it simply seems like it's just too long of a show and I don't think I get into it too much. So I proceeded to watch it a few years back, and got around to the start of Dressrosa arc, then finished Dressrosa. But because of how long I watched it and how quickly I burned through it, I burnt myself out watching it. And sometimes that can be quite a massive thing for anime fans, is when you get burnt out that quickly over a show, even though you have a really good interest in it and a really big interest in it, you don't know if it's worth watching or not, or carrying on, simply for the fact that you can't physically do it anymore. So I remember getting all the way to the end of the Doflamingo fight, I saw the conclusion, I was over the moon, but I was so tired, I didn't want to watch One Piece anymore, so I dropped it. And now if you skip back to now, in June 2021, I thought, you know what? It looks like it's getting really good at the moment. I was seeing all these clips from Wano and I was in awe, to be quite honest, so I put it on. I started from episode 1 again. Now going from episode 1 to 900 odd was a big task. And I completed it about 2 weeks back. Not many people are going to be able to sit through, 900 episodes of a show, skipping filler, so probably around the 800 mark. From June through to the end of October non-stop like I could. I live a fairly simple life, so I was able to do it. But I see loads of people say the excuse for One Piece of saying, it's too long, it's not worth it, it's not... I'd say it's worth it. Don't get me wrong, it is highly worth it, but the excuse of it's too long, I haven't got the time, is completely valid. I used to think it wasn't, and I thought people were just putting it off for the sake of putting it off. I do think it's a completely valid excuse. I burned through 900 episodes in the space of a few months, and I did get burnt out at one point at the same arc again. Zou was hard to get. Whole Cake Island was my favourite arc by a country mile. And then obviously we got to Wano and I started to enjoy that just as well. There is real no purpose to this video, simply for the fact that One Piece should never be called mid. It shouldn't be compared to other shows in the same sort of era, so Naruto, the Dragon Balls, the Bleachers. Because whenever people try to argue any of those shows, they tend to put the other one down by using it as like a beating stick towards the other one. Bleach has its pros and cons. Naruto has its pros and cons. DBZ has its pros and cons, and so does One Piece. Now, for people to write one of them off simply for the fact that they prefer the other one more than the other. I was a massive Naruto fan. I still am. Naruto is probably one of my favourite all-time shows. But I was never going to dismiss the likes of One Piece and the rest of the big three, simply because I had a big fan as a Naruto fan, if that makes any sense. The one thing I will say about One Piece is that for a show that's never stopped, the world building it can put in place when it's going week in, week out without a break is incredible. Naruto had to split up into Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. And Naruto, the original series, did a really good job of building the world that Shippuden was going to have, but Shippuden didn't really use the world completely. It used it, don't get me wrong, it used every aspect of it could, but at the same time, there's plot holes in that show, there's directions that you don't really make sense of it, like the Akatsuki being the main villain for a while was building from the OG series, and then once they're out of the way, there tends to be little hints towards the next villain, which ended up being Obito, then it ended up being Madara, then it ended up being the Atsuki, and it's like, at what point did they really plan on going to it? There are some One Piece villains that are sketch, there are some DBZ, Dragon Ball villains in general that are sketch, but that's what's unique about these shows and why they're probably not comparable to the rest of anime. And I'm not talking of a shonen or over action anime, I'm on about anime as a whole. Some of my favourite all-time shows are the likes of what my favourite all-time show is Your Lie in April. To have AOT up there as one of my favourite, which involves people being ripped to shreds by mindless monsters, then it goes political, to my all-time favourite being about a romance, it's a really big stretch. So if you're sitting there one day, and this is the main reason of this show, if you're sitting there, I say show, I mean video. If you're sitting there one day and you need a show to watch, but you want something to last a long time, and it's going to be funny, it's going to be light-hearted, it's going to have some deep emotional moments, it's going to make you feel a lot of things that you shouldn't feel for some really odd things. If you know what I'm on about, you know what I'm on about. Then try One Piece. Genuinely, there's 900 episodes. If you get to Arlong Park and you enjoy it, keep going. Every arc's near enough the same. It has its ups, it has its downs, and it's generally really good. I think the comedy aspect of the show really goes under the radar, to be honest, compared to the rest of them. So like the short message of this video, just watch One Piece. Genuinely. If you've enjoyed this little commentary type talk, then please hit the subscribe and like button, and have a good rest of your week.